Pushed and came out eventually with a lot of designs that had inspired other architects, but he hasn't been able to build as many of these other stuff. So it's always been this kind of fetishization that we're sometimes just rock somewhere in the data that yeah, if I find the right points where the containers stack on top of it.
Are they like offset?
Yeah, well, this 20-foot module is the standard module of shipping containers, and then up from that is 40. And then the 45s and the 48s have extra bits that cantilever off beyond that. And they also have other sets of interbox connectors at the ends of them. So it really adds out of it.
That's fascinating though. I mean,
yeah.
It's this whole world that I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the container everywhere.
Wait to do the floor, the finished floor, until we get to the site so we can go across. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect transition to Ben Parko, an architect in town who's our final speaker. So Ben did this amazing, I wrote the story, so I'm very partial to this. The story was really one of the best things he's written. But Ben had a really unique challenge. At the very top of the Berkeley Hills is this beautiful house, 1954, by Joseph Escherick, one of the great Bay Area architects. And Escherick designed the house for a woman. A great nephew now lives there. But he and his wife and their young. The idea is you got an Escherick house with a Lawrence Halpern landscape. So it's this little jewel at the top.
Yeah, so we're challenged with how do you even build on this property with this amazing landscape and this amazing architecture already there. And at the top of the hill with this squiggly little road that is covered with power lines and trees. And we were already, the client wanted to do a prefab modular solution. The modular pieces were too big to get up there. And we were, my company was in the very early stages of a startup developing a panelized system to put together houses, kind of more like a Lego set or Tinker Toys or something like that, smaller pieces. And our idea was, well, you know, maybe the pieces in modular are a little bit limiting, a little bit too big, and if the pieces were smaller, there's maybe a sweet spot where if the piece is just big enough, it'll be cost effective. But if it gets, if it's small enough, it'll be tunable enough where we can customize it for this client or that site or that climate condition. And so we were experimenting with this panelized system where we could put this puzzle pieces of wall panels and roof panels together. These pieces were small enough that we could get them up to the top of this site, and then the challenge was, how do we even work on this site with these amazing pieces already in place? We decided to build it as a standalone separate building and really just barely kind of touch the ground and barely touch the Joe Escherick house that's already there, with this kind of little linkway bridge elements which were prefabricated, a little tea room between these bridges, so there's sort of the main house, a bridge, a little glass tea room in the garden, another bridge, and then the addition. The addition's really sleeping quarters for the entire family. Now this link is outdoors, and they're very, you know, Berkeley clients. They're like, we don't want this thing, we don't want air conditioning, we don't want it enclosed. We're like, are you sure? You know, we love the idea of walking outdoors in your, you know, your kids in their footy jammies, but are you okay with that? And they're totally on board with it. So there's this little linkway that gets you out to the house, and we're able to frame this entire house, all the interior walls, all the exterior walls, and the roof in 5 days, which was pretty remarkable. And it's for us, it was really just a sort of a pilot project to test out this panelized system, in contrast with the other end of the spectrum, which is, you know, more of a modular big boxes you build in a factory type of system.
One of the things I like about this panelized system is you were able to take a lot of the electrical work out of the walls, put it into the floor, so you sort of like building less. I think there's a quote in the story like, you want to get the crap out of the walls.
Yeah, so part of the issue, again, back to you know, all the codes and the inspectors and all that stuff, is we didn't want people, like, we want to build these walls in the factory and have it done and not have some inspector saying like, what's inside there? And so the idea was no electrical in any of the walls. We're going to do all the lighting happens inside of these shop fabricated millwork components, which are essentially built-in armoire type units, which all light switches. And light switches, you can't really put them in the floor, and where do you put them? And there's some great new technologies out there that we wanted to test. One of them is a kinetically operated radio transmitter light switch. And so you literally can just stick this thing on the wall. The energy that it takes to push the button creates just enough charge, it sends a little signal to a box somewhere else, and that tells the light to turn on. And so that there's nothing in the walls besides insulation and framing, and that's it.
Come on in.
And so really all the, you know,
Welcome to the party.
That's right. Plumbing and electrical and all the other systems in the house, really that was the strategy, is how do we simplify and kind of rethink how these pieces go together to make the prefabrication of it in the factory and the assembly of it in the field as elegant and seamless as possible, and still not disrupt and have an awkward living arrangement where switches aren't where you expect them to be, etc.
So and then it's like insulation with the netting.
Yeah. So there, we used part of our thinking as well was that if we're going to build this stuff in a factory, we want to build using really factory systems that are well suited to precision, because that's one of the benefits of building in a factory. You can get everything super precise and dialed in, and all the finishes dialed in really perfectly, so that we don't have funny joints and things kind of wonky. And so instead of using, say, 2x4 wood framing in a factory, which didn't really make sense to us, we used light gauge commercial metal studs, which you see in like when you see an office building going up, and we made these wall units out of light gauge metal studs, insulated them, set the windows into them, sheathed them with gypboard on the inside, and then cladding on the outside, and waterproofing and all those systems. And then we're able to bring them in and bolt all that together.
Do they interlock together when you put them together?
Yeah, they screw together, they screw down to the foundation, they screw to each other, and then we're able to conceal it all with really what comes out on the site is this you see the waterproofing layer of the building, and then we hang essentially a finish material on the outside. The idea there too is that really the wall for any site, any client, this wall panel is always going to be the same. It's just a dumb wall with insulation in it.
Sure.
But someone might want wood siding, and someone else might want metal siding, and someone else might want, you know, something else. And so the idea was, let's deliver that same wall over and over again, and let's just come and hang on the finish on the outside of that, so that we don't have to change this piece that's so consistent everywhere else.
Cool. About it and give it, you know, get the conversation going, because I think without that curiosity and interest, we can peddle it all day long, but it's not going to go very far. We need clients who are going to say, you know what, I recognize that this is still in the early stages, but I kind of believe in being on the front end of, you know, where housing is going. I think that makes a difference.
That's the biggest piece of us. I mean, people ask us about this Berkeley house, like, what is it that made it what it is? You know, it's understated, but it's really beautiful. It fits in perfectly. I can't believe it's prefab. And we're like, you know what? It was this client. We have enlightened clients who were down for the challenge and trusted us enough to basically experiment on them. And our promise to them was, you know, we need to deliver you the house that you want, and we're not going to force anything on you that's going to undo your, you know, the basic tenets of what you need, but we'd like to have a little bit of slack to experiment and push the envelope without kind of breaking it. And that's huge. The more of that there is, the more we're going to be able to test these concepts out, you know, with clients like this, with clients like yours, and start to solve these things.
Just got into a hearing range. I know the architect for the Foxy project, did you want to training for this?
No, Ben has a different project. This is a little panel discussion on prefab. So we're just talking about prefab.
Ben and Seth each have homes on the 12th. Great. So yeah. Okay, great. So the house in Berkeley, Ben's, Emerald. Well, look, guys, you know, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing your projects with us. We're really excited to be here at Aether. We're all going to stick around. If you have questions,
Welcome to Proxy. Welcome to